Let's talk about the 36-man All Black squad that are going to be heading north and trying to plunder Twickenham and the Aviva Stadium in Dublin and the Stade de France in Paris. 3 of their 5 matches that they've got, because they go to Rome as well, don't they? And I don't know where New Zealand play Japan, but they're playing Japan. So a busy old end of year for New Zealand. And for Scott Robertson, the next few weeks are going to dictate whether his first year in charge as All Blacks head coach has been a success or not. Very interesting selections. I would love to know what you think of that, his squad for the Northern Tour. Let me know in the comments down below. Who would you have picked that hasn't been picked? What selection mistakes or successes do you think Razor has had with this squad? I'm Tim and this is Egg Chasers, and I would love it if I would earn your subscription as well, and it really helps if you just give the video a thumbs up as well. There aren't really many stories in this squad, because I'd say I'd sort of summarise it. The headline here is, as you were. I will say probably the only story in this squad, the main headline, is this guy, Cam Roigard. And he's been getting the column inches today after the squad's been announced, because he is back in the squad. He managed to prove his fitness by playing the NPC at the weekend, coming off the bench for Counties. Dalton Papali'i also off the bench in that same game to prove his fitness and get back in get in the squad. But Cam Roigard, who's been out for about 6 months with a knee injury, last played for New Zealand during the Rugby World Cup when he was playing in the same squad as Aaron Smith, and everyone was thinking that, well, there you go. You've got the one guy retiring, and you've got the next cab off the rank coming through to occupy the spot. Now, Cortez Ratimer's had a little sniff of international rugby and has been quite good. It's going to be a bit of a dogfight for that number 9 jersey. Noah Hotham is the guy that drops out of the All Black squad, and I guess that's the only other story in this All Black selection from Scott Robertson is the veterans. You've got Cam Roigard, 23 years of age, looking to push for that number 9 jersey, and you've got 2 veterans who we wondered whether, had they just played in Wellington a couple of weeks ago, had they just played their last ever game for New Zealand, because it's certainly going to be their last game on home soil, you imagine, with both players playing in Japan next year. But they are both going on the Northern Tour, which has led some people to say that Scott Robertson is being too loyal or too safe, or what is the point in investing time in these guys when you've got an opportunity to blood some youngsters and get them experience at test level? I would say to that, leadership and experience is so valuable. And there's always a tendency to really want the shiny new toy, the young guy. Because what we do, and I've said this before on the channel, and I think this happens a lot. You see a guy that's really talented and young, and you map onto them how good they could be if they continue to improve at that rate. And you think, oh, they're brilliant at age 20. Imagine how good they're going to be at 25. And it doesn't always pan out like that. And in any case, the experience and the leadership that these guys will bring to that All Black squad is massive. And also, you know, this is going to be their swan song for the All Blacks before they go and play in Japan next year. The connection that these 2 guys have got with great players from the past, with great setups from the past. They would have had players, you know, Sam Cane had Richie McCaw kind of in a mentor role for him. And Sam Cane would have taken a lot of those values and a lot of that culture from that great All Blacks team. And this is how you pass it down to these young guys. So I'm a massive fan of having these veterans mixed in with a few new faces, but you give the youngsters the best opportunity of being really good by having them come in to a really settled, experienced team where everyone kind of knows what they're doing. And too many new faces all at once, I don't think works. And in any case, we've seen a load of good young players come through for New Zealand lately. Look at that, or I'll go back and look at their squad in a minute. There's loads of them, but just some guys that haven't maybe got as much rugby as some people would like, but are going to be big in the future is Billy Proctor. You've got the likes of Ruben Love. So I don't mind. I wouldn't criticise Scott Robertson for being too loyal or too safe, just because really he's only made 1 change to the squad, and that's Cam Roigard coming back, Noah Hotham coming in. I quite like the guys like TJ Perenara and Sam Cane being in the squad, even if they are only around for the next 5 test matches. As for the tour itself, well, New Zealand, as I mentioned, they played Japan, and yeah, I think you can kind of bookend that tour. It's actually been scheduled really quite well, because you've got 2 games at either end when you can play your wider squad. You can make sure all 36 guys get at least 1 match, maybe 2, with those games against Japan and Italy. And that's not being disrespectful to those 2 teams, but the meat in that sandwich absolutely is England at Twickenham, Ireland in Dublin, and France in Paris. That is massive, especially the 6-day turnaround between England and Ireland. That's a tough schedule. I know Ireland are in exactly the same boat, so they've got to manage that as well. But that's a tough ask, and it is going to be a really, really good test of Scott Robertson's, well, not just his team, but of his squad, because you would imagine from England to Ireland, some changes are going to be necessary. What impact will that have? The same is true of Ireland, so we're going to get a really good sense of where Scott Robertson's team is at. And whether or not 2024 is regarded as a success or not for him is going to be on this next month or so. So it's huge for Scott Robertson. I'm really, really excited about these games. As for the squad, let's go back to that for a second. And I don't feel the need to go through every position by position, because it's amazing, actually. It's very unusual, but it's exactly the same, with one exception, just Cam Roygaard. Take Noah Hotham out, Cam Roygaard's back in. Noah Hotham will be involved in the All Blacks 15 squad that is being announced, where I'm sure you'll get a load of young guys named. But just on that, what happens quite a lot when a team gets announced like this is someone will say, oh, I think this player should be in. I think that player should be in. What about that player? That's great. That's the sort of conversations that are, well, tell me in the comments down below. That's the sort of conversation that's fun to have when a squad gets announced. But do you know one thing people don't tend to do? They don't tend to tell you who they would drop. So how about we make it a little rule? If you're saying in the comments this player should be in, you have to say who you would drop. So Peter Lakai, for example, I really, really like the cut of his jib. But I'm looking at that pack in the back row, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'd love Peter Lakai to be there, but who would I drop? And I'm not sure I would drop anyone for Peter Lakai. And that's why the conversation becomes a little bit different, doesn't it? Maybe Samipeni Finau, but then I think he deserves another chance. So no, I don't know that I would change anything. Obviously, when Samisoni Takeaho is back and available, that would change the picture at hooker. And maybe you could argue that Hotham should be there and Perenara not. But I like the fact you've got one old head and two of these young guns fighting for that position. So I guess David Havili, has he been a little bit lucky there? And what's his reason for being there? Maybe the fact that he can, at a push, cover 10, at a push, cover 15, and he can cover both of the centre positions. And especially when Geordie Barrett is looking like he's going to be out for the Japan game and possibly for the England game as well. That I guess that makes a bit of sense. But just to confirm what I said, look at the fact that, and it's amazing to think there hasn't been more injuries or unavailabilities or anyone really putting their hand up to the point that you can't say no to them. 35 out of the 30. 35 out of the 36 players are the same as the 36-man squad for the Rugby Championship, that's amazing, really. They're all the same, exactly the same, except for Cam Roygaard. So, and as for the team that will play against England on November the 2nd, they'll play a changed-up team against Japan. I would not be surprised if the 23-man squad that takes the field against England, assuming Geordie Barrett is still injured at that point, I wouldn't be surprised if it was exactly the same New Zealand squad that took the field in Wellington the last time they played, because that looks about right to me. I don't know what you think, but that looks about right to me, which maybe says that Scott Robertson has arrived at a point, whether you think it's a good enough squad or any individual position is good enough, it feels to me like maybe Scott Robertson throughout 2024 has arrived at a point where he does know his best squad. Maybe he does know his best team. Be interesting to know what you think. Leave your comment down below. Give the video a thumbs up. Hit subscribe on the channel. I will see you on the next one.